When patience runs out, Ambassador, Elena Vasquez sat perfectly still in her designated seat within the great assembly hall of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber stretched upward like a cathedral, its crystalline walls capturing and refracting the light from distant stars. Around her, delegates from 47 different species filled their assigned positions, each section designed to accommodate the unique physiological needs of its occupants. Elena had been attending these sessions for 8 long years, 8 years of careful diplomacy, patient negotiations, and endless explanations about human capabilities. 8 years of watching her proposals get shelved, her warnings ignored, and her people treated like the newest students in a classroom full of ancient professors. The Krillian Chancellor Morthok was speaking again, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber's translation systems. The Krillians resembled walking suits of armor, their bodies encased in natural metallic plates that gleamed under the assembly lights. Morthok stood nearly 3 meters tall, his presence commanding attention through sheer size and the authority his species had wielded for millennia. The matter of human technological contributions continues to be overstated, Morthok declared, his words automatically translated into the 47 languages represented in the chamber. While we acknowledge their ... enthusiasm ... we must remember that true innovation comes from species with proper technological heritage. The Krillian Empire has been perfecting faster-than-light travel for over 10,000 years. The Ethereals have mastered energy manipulation for even longer. Humans have been in space for barely 3 centuries. Elena felt her jaw tighten, but she maintained her diplomatic composure. 3 centuries. As if the length of time in space was the only measure of capability. She thought about the quantum drive modifications that human engineer David Chen had developed just last year. Improvements that had increased galactic shipping efficiency by 30%. She thought about Dr. Sarah Okafor's breakthrough in cross-species medical treatment, which had saved thousands of lives across dozens of worlds. She thought about the agricultural techniques that humans had shared freely, techniques that had ended food shortages on 7 different planets. Weisinger, Alix of the Ethereals, floated in their section of the chamber, their translucent form shifting between different states of matter. When they spoke, their voice came as pure thought, transmitted through the neural links all delegates wore. The young ones show promise, but promise must be tempered with wisdom. Perhaps in another millennium, when humanity has proven their stability, we might consider expanding their role in galactic affairs. Another millennium, Elena almost laughed at the absurdity. By then, assuming humans followed the same technological progression curve they had maintained since leaving Earth, they would have innovations that would make current galactic technology look like stone tools. Director Zun of the Nexari Trade Coalition shifted uncomfortably in their chair. The Nexari were practical beings, resembling large, intelligent otters with opposable thumbs and a keen understanding of logistics. With respect to the Chancellor and the Weisinger, Zun said carefully, human involvement in our supply chain operations has proven remarkably effective. Their coordination systems have reduced shipping delays by 45% across the Outer Rim territories. Morthok's metallic features somehow managed to convey disdain. Efficiency in moving boxes is hardly grounds for major political consideration. Any species can be trained to follow logistics protocols. Elena's hands clenched into fists beneath the table. Any species can be trained, as if humans were performing tricks rather than revolutionizing galactic commerce. She thought about Captain Maria Santos, who had single-handedly prevented 3 separate shipping disasters by recognizing pattern anomalies that the automated systems had missed. She thought about the human negotiators who had resolved the Titan Belt mining dispute by finding a solution that satisfied all parties involved, something that had been considered impossible. The debate continued for another hour, following the same patterns Alina had witnessed countless times before. The older species spoke of tradition, stability, and the need for gradual change. The newer species deferred to their elders, afraid to challenge the established order, and humanity's contributions were consistently minimized, dismissed, or attributed to luck rather than skill. Finally, Morthok turned his attention directly to Alina. Ambassador Vasquez, surely you understand that your species, while ... competent ... simply lacks the experience necessary for major galactic responsibility. Perhaps in time, with proper guidance, humans might earn a more significant role. But, for now, your current advisory status seems appropriate. Advisory status. 8 years of advisory status, while human innovations revolutionized everything from transportation to medicine to agriculture across the galaxy. 8 years of being patted on the head like promising children while human problem solvers fixed crises that had stumped galactic minds for centuries. Elena stood slowly, her movement causing conversations throughout the chamber to fade into silence. The soft hum of the translation systems became more noticeable in the sudden quiet. She walked to the center of the speaking circle, her footsteps echoing off the crystalline walls. Chancellor Morthok, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. You speak of experience and tradition. You speak of proper technological heritage and the need for gradual change. You speak of guidance and appropriate roles. She paused, looking around the chamber at the faces, sensors, and optical arrays of 46 different species. Let me share with you some facts about human experience over the past 8 years. Alina activated her personal data projector, filling the air above the speaking circle with holographic displays. Human medical personnel have treated over 2 million patients across the galaxy, with a success rate 15% higher than the galactic average. Human engineers have improved the efficiency of critical systems on 340 different worlds. Human agricultural specialists have increased food production on 73 planets that were previously considered barely habitable. The displays shifted, showing shipping routes, communication networks, and power distribution grids. Human coordination has reduced shipping delays, improved communication relay efficiency, and prevented 14 separate power grid failures that would have affected billions of beings across dozens of worlds. Director Zune was nodding vigorously, but many of the other delegates looked uncomfortable with the presentation. Facts, it seemed, were less convenient than assumptions. Human negotiators, Alina continued, have resolved 47 different disputes, including conflicts that had been ongoing for decades. Human researchers have made breakthrough discoveries in fields ranging from quantum mechanics to xenobiology. 2 renewable energy systems. She gestured, and the displays changed to show personnel deployment across the galaxy. At this moment, there are over 50,000 humans working in various capacities throughout galactic civilization. They serve as doctors, engineers, researchers, negotiators, coordinators, and specialists in fields that didn't exist before humans developed them. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the ambient hum of the environmental systems seemed muted, and yet Alina said, her voice growing stronger, we are told that we lack experience. We are told that our contributions are minimal. We are told that we need guidance and that our current advisory status is appropriate. She deactivated the projector and looked directly at Morthok. Chancellor, you asked if I understand why humanity should remain in an advisory role. I understand perfectly. It's not about our capabilities or our contributions. It's about your comfort with the established order. Wise Singer Alex shifted their form, their thoughts rippling with concern. Ambassador, surely you don't mean to suggest that the Council acts from bias rather than wisdom? I suggest nothing, Alina replied. I simply observe that 8 years of exceptional performance has resulted in no change in status, no increase in responsibility, and no recognition of actual contribution. I observe that species with far less impressive records are given votes, territories, and authority that humans are denied. She walked back toward her seat, but stopped before sitting down. Which brings me to my announcement. The chamber grew even quieter, if such a thing were possible. Effective immediately, the Terran Federation is withdrawing from all galactic activities. All human personnel throughout the galaxy have been recalled. All human research and development projects are being terminated. All human-operated systems are being shut down, and responsibility is being transferred back to local authorities. The explosion of sound that followed was unlike anything Alina had ever heard. Delegates were standing, shouting, demanding explanations. The translation systems were overloading, creating a cacophony of electronic screeching and feedback. Alarm indicators began flashing throughout the chamber as the automated systems registered the unprecedented level of agitation. Morthok's voice cut through the chaos, amplified by his species' natural vocal power. You cannot simply withdraw. There are contracts, agreements, legal obligations. Alina smiled calmly. All human contracts were signed with specific termination clauses. The Federation is invoking those clauses simultaneously across all agreements. We are fulfilling our legal obligations by providing the required notice and ensuring orderly transitions where possible. Director Zune was frantically working at a portable data terminal. Ambassador, our shipping schedules, the coordination systems. We need at least 6 months to transition. The termination clauses allow for 30 days' notice in most cases, Alina replied. Human personnel will remain at their posts for the duration of that period to assist with transitions. After that, they returned to Terran space. Wise Singer Alex's form was fluctuating rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among their species. This is rash, Ambassador. Surely there must be room for negotiation, for compromise. There was room for negotiation, Alina said. For 8 years, there was room for negotiation. The Federation repeatedly requested formal recognition of human contributions, meaningful participation in galactic governance, and respect for human capabilities. Those requests were consistently denied or ignored. She gathered her materials and prepared to leave. The Federation has decided that our time and energy are better invested in endeavors where our contributions are valued rather than tolerated. As Alina walked toward the chamber exit, Morthok's voice followed her. This is a mistake, Ambassador. Humanity needs the galactic community more than we need humanity. Alina paused at the doorway and turned back one final time. Chancellor, I suppose we're about to find out. The door sealed behind her with a soft chime, leaving 46 alien species to contemplate a galaxy without human involvement for the first time in nearly a decade. Within hours, the first systems began to fail. The shipping coordination network for the Outer Rim territories crashed when the human-designed redundancy protocols were deactivated. Communication relays throughout the spiral arm started experiencing cascading failures as human maintained. Buffer systems went offline. Medical facilities across dozens of worlds found themselves unable to treat certain conditions as human specialists began their journey home. But these were just the immediate effects. The real impact would become clear in the coming days as the galaxy discovered just how deeply human innovation had become woven into the fabric of galactic civilization. Alina stood in the observation deck of the human transport ship as it pulled away from the council station. Behind her, 47 different species were learning a lesson about taking essential people for granted. Ahead of her lay human space, where innovation could flourish without permission and contributions could be valued without apology. The galaxy had made its choice. Now it would live with the consequences. Asterisk, when the backbone breaks 72 hours after Alina Vasquez walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, the first major crisis struck. The Kepler 442 mining operation, one of the largest rare mineral extraction facilities in the galaxy, ground to a complete halt when its automated systems crashed. The facility had been running smoothly for 6 years under the management of human engineer Dr. James Park, whose innovative predictive maintenance algorithms had prevented equipment failures and optimized production output by over 60%. Station Commander Voctor of the Krillian Mining Consortium stood in the facility's control center, staring at screens filled with error messages he couldn't understand. The massive alien's metallic plates were dulled with stress, a physical manifestation of his growing panic. "Explain to me again why these systems are failing," he demanded of his technical staff. Chief Technician Morden, a smaller Krillian with specialized sensor arrays built into his cranial plates, reviewed the diagnostic reports for the 3rd time in an hour. "The primary coordination matrix has become unstable." The human engineer installed what he called adaptive protocols that we were told not to modify. "Now those protocols are shutting down one by one." "Then restart them," Voctor snapped. "We cannot, Commander." The human wrote the control systems. In his own coding language, our technicians can read the basic functions, but the deeper integration patterns are beyond our comprehension. Through the control center's viewport, Voctor could see the massive mining equipment sitting motionless. Each hour of downtime cost the operation millions of credits, and more importantly, the rare minerals extracted here were essential for faster-than-light drive construction throughout the galaxy. Similar scenes were playing out across hundreds of worlds. On New Decia, the atmospheric processes that kept the planet habitable for its population of 8 billion began experiencing cascade failures. Human atmospheric engineer Dr. Lisa Chen had designed an integrated system that balanced oxygen levels, temperature control, and weather patterns with unprecedented efficiency. Without her oversight and the predictive models she had developed, the automated systems were making increasingly erratic adjustments. Administrator Velthan of the Thessian Colonial Authority paced frantically around his command center. His species resembled tall, graceful humanoids with silver skin and large, multifaceted eyes that could process vast amounts of visual information simultaneously. Right now, those eyes were processing nothing but bad news. How long before the atmospheric composition becomes dangerous? He asked his environmental team. Senior technician Zaralok consulted her readings. At current rates of system degradation, we estimate 48 hours before oxygen levels drop below safe thresholds for most species. 72 hours before they become critical. Velthan activated his emergency communication array. "Get me a direct line to the human engineer. Whatever she wants, pay it. Sir, Zarelok said quietly, we tried. The human embassy sent an automated response. All human personnel have been recalled to Terran space for urgent consultations. They are not accepting individual contracts or emergency requests. On the massive trade station Nexus Prime, Director Zuin watched in growing horror as the entire galactic shipping network began to collapse. The station served as the primary distribution hub for goods, moving between the core worlds and the outer rim territories. Human logistics coordinators had transformed what was once a chaotic, inefficient system into a smooth-flowing network that handled over 1 million shipments per day. Now, without human oversight, ships were arriving at already full docking bays, while empty bays sat unused due to miscommunication. Cargo was being routed to wrong destinations or sitting in warehouses because the automated tracking systems couldn't adapt to the constant changes in shipping schedules. The elegant dance of interstellar commerce had become a stumbling catastrophe. Personal communication device chimed constantly with emergency calls from shipping companies, planetary governors, and trade organizations. Everyone wanted to know why their deliveries were delayed, why their cargo was missing, why the systems that had worked flawlessly for years were suddenly failing. Director, his assistant Polvin, approached nervously. We've received 17 formal complaints from the Core Worlds Council about shipping delays. Food deliveries to 3 different colonies are running behind schedule, and medical supplies bound for the Vega system have been misrouted to the completely opposite direction. Zuin stared at the massive holographic display that showed shipping routes throughout the galaxy. Red indicators marked problems and delays, and there were so many red indicators that the display looked like it had a rash. How did we not realize how dependent we had become? He muttered. The question was being asked across the galaxy, in the medical facilities where human doctors had treated conditions that local physicians couldn't handle. Patients with complex cases found themselves without adequate care. Human doctors had a unique ability to understand and adapt treatments for different species, something that had seemed like a convenient luxury until it was gone. Dr. Colmoth of the Central Medical Complex on Rigel 7 stood over a patient whose condition was deteriorating rapidly. The patient was a Vorthan mining engineer whose body had been poisoned by exposure to rare elements. Dr. Sarah Martinez had treated dozens of similar cases during her 3 years at the facility, developing treatment protocols that had saved hundreds of lives. Now Dr. Martinez was gone, and her treatment protocols were written in medical terminology that assumed a level of cross-species physiological knowledge that most galactic doctors simply didn't possess. The Vorthan patient was dying, and Dr. Colmouth had no idea how to save him. Have we received any response from the Human Medical Council? He asked his staff. Nurse Valara shook her head. The same automated message as everyone else. All human medical personnel have been recalled. They regret any inconvenience, but cite irreconcilable differences in professional recognition and authority as the reason for termination of services. Meanwhile, in the deepest levels of the galactic communication network, the crisis was spreading like a virus. Human communication specialists had designed and maintained the relay protocols that allowed near-instantaneous communication across vast distances. The system worked by creating cascading signal boosters that automatically adjusted for interference, stellar radiation, and the complex gravitational effects of different star systems. Without human oversight, the automated systems were making increasingly poor decisions about signal routing. Communications that should have taken minutes were taking hours. Some messages were being lost entirely, while others were being duplicated dozens of times. The carefully orchestrated symphony of galactic communication was becoming a cacophonous mess. At the Galactic Council station, emergency session after emergency session was called to address the growing crisis. Delegates who had been dismissive of human contributions just days earlier were now frantically trying to understand how their entire civilization had become so dependent on human expertise without anyone realizing it. Chancellor Morthok stood before the emergency assembly, his metallic plates dull with stress and fatigue. The situation is worse than initially projected. Our engineering teams have analyzed the systems that are failing, and we have discovered that human modifications and improvements are integrated into virtually every major technological system across the galaxy. He activated a holographic display that showed the scope of the crisis. Transportation networks, communication systems, medical facilities, mining operations, agricultural programs, atmospheric processors, power distribution grids, and manufacturing. Facilities across 437 worlds are experiencing various degrees of failure. Y-Singer Alex floated at the center of the assembly, their form flickering with distress. How could we have allowed such widespread dependency to develop without awareness? Director Zuin, participating remotely due to the crisis at Nexus Prime, answered the question. Because the humans never presented their work as creating dependency. They identified problems, developed solutions, and implemented improvements. Each individual improvement seemed minor, but collectively, they transformed our entire technological infrastructure. The revelation was staggering. Humans hadn't conquered galactic civilization through force or political maneuvering. They had simply made everything work better, one system at a time, until their expertise had become essential to the basic functioning of galactic society. What are our options? Asked Representative Tolva of the Centauri Alliance. Morthok consulted his reports. Our technical teams estimate that replacing human-designed systems with conventional alternatives would take between 15 and 20 years. Assuming we can reverse engineer their innovations successfully, the cost would be approximately 5% of the combined gross domestic product of all member worlds. The silence that followed was profound. What about negotiating with the humans? Suggested another delegate. We have tried, Morthok admitted. All diplomatic channels to human space are returning the same automated response. The Terran Federation is no longer accepting diplomatic communications from the Galactic Council. They have effectively severed all contact. Director Zun cleared his throat. I may have a potential solution, though it will require significant adjustments to our traditional approaches. All attention focused on the Nexari leader. The humans have not severed all communication channels. Individual worlds and organizations can still reach human space through non-council communication networks. However, the humans are no longer treating with the Galactic Council as an entity. The implications were clear. If individual worlds wanted human expertise, they would have to negotiate directly with the Terran Federation, outside the framework of galactic politics. That would undermine the authority of the Council, Morthok protested. Chancellor Zun replied, in hours, 3 separate worlds will face atmospheric crises that could kill billions. In 72 hours, food distribution networks will collapse across the outer rim. In 1 week, the shipping delays will cause shortages of essential goods throughout the galaxy. I suggest that Council authority is less important than galactic survival. The debate that followed was fierce but brief. Reality was imposing its own timeline. Within 6 hours, individual worlds began reaching out to human space. The messages were humble, desperate, and very different from the condescending tone that had characterized galactic attitudes toward humanity for so long. Alina Vasquez reviewed the communications from her office in the Terran Federation capital. The holographic displays showed dozens of requests for assistance, each one more urgent than the last. The same voices that had dismissed human capabilities were now begging for human intervention. Her aide, Commander Roberts, reviewed the priority assessments. The atmospheric crisis on New Desha is the most urgent, followed by the medical emergencies at 7 different facilities. The shipping and communication problems are causing widespread disruption, but they're not immediately life-threatening. Nodded thoughtfully. What are the terms being offered? Full recognition of human expertise in all relevant fields. Premium compensation rates, complete operational authority for human personnel, and formal apologies for past treatment. And the Galactic Council's position. Radio silence from the Council itself. But Chancellor Morthok sent a personal message requesting a private meeting to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements for future cooperation. Alina smiled. The galaxy had spent 8 years teaching humanity about patience. Now humanity was returning the lesson. Respond to the individual worlds first, she decided. Emergency medical and life support situations get immediate attention. Infrastructure. Problems can be addressed once we've dealt with the critical issues. As for the Chancellor's request, she paused, looking out at the stars visible from her office window. Tell him that the Terran Federation is always interested in mutually beneficial arrangements with entities that recognize human contributions. Appropriately, if the Galactic Council is prepared to discuss meaningful partnership rather than advisory participation, we're willing to listen. The message was diplomatic but clear. The old relationship was over. If the galaxy wanted human expertise, it would need to build a new relationship based on respect, recognition, and genuine partnership across the galaxy. The age of taking humanity for granted had ended. The age of earning human cooperation was about to begin. Asterisk.